optimistic. So I mean, that's if you, like I say on the show a number of times, you can always have hope. You can never not have hope,
Right.
and see what happens. Because what is it today? Second, July, August. So in the real world, they'll be here full fledged by late July, early August.
Right.
Start to report.
Camps need to generally start late July, first week of August. NFL camps start even sooner than that.
Right.
So
Right.
Again, the NFL is a different deal because they're not going to have fans in the seats, but you're still going to have players. You can isolate the players,
Right.
and if they isolate the players, and that time they have a little more control over it than trying to isolate a bunch of college students who are going to be going out hanging out somewhere. And again, these players are going to have to take it serious and understand. You know what? As much as we won a game, I want to go over to Dirt Bags or University Boulevard or do whatever. I can't, for the good of the team, for the good of the program. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that.
Right. No, it's a tough time. We're trying to get ready here for some quotes from Sean. He was very, just in observation, I've been around him about 11 years now, and he was very good today, very mellow. Of course, it's not December. Right. We're in first part of June, so he was great with his answers, and we'll see.
It's good to hear from It's good to hear from these guys. So I think we've got some clips queued up. Steve came out of the box with the question about Sean Miller's international recruiting, and I thought there were some interesting things about that. So let's play the clip, and then we'll discuss it a little bit.
Well, I would say about 2 years ago, Steve, you try to always take inventory of what you do that works and things maybe that we can do better, and then obviously taking into account the landscape of the industry that we're all in. And college basketball obviously is the one we're talking about. And I just think there's so many great examples of either singular international players that have come over here and made a big impact. Sometimes it's on one team. Sometimes it's for their entire career. Then you have programs that have just done it well, not just in a single season, but for a long period of time. Obviously, Gonzaga really comes to mind. Me being here for over a decade and competing against Gonzaga, I think it's one of the ingredients that makes them such a successful program, that they don't rely on just one aspect of recruiting. They've gotten some great 4-year transfers, players that have actually sat out and then impacted, their program. Kyle Wilcher is an example of that. Clearly, the international players, some which hit the ground running, but others that have developed within their program and almost become like the fabric of Gonzaga, right? And then obviously you have high school recruiting in our country, and then most recently you have the eligible immediately transfers. So I think for us, especially when Jack Murphy came aboard, because Jack has the passion to recruit international, he has the contacts, and I think the know-how. It just made sense. And sometimes it takes about a year or so for you to see the results. But we set out as far back as a couple of years to mix it in and make it a part of what we do. I think each year is different, obviously, because we signed only one player in the fall class, Dalen Terry, this past year. And then you never really know how many you're going to lose when you bring in 4 freshmen, 3 of them that leave. All of a sudden now you have a lot of need, and thank goodness we had cultivated that, and I think that the players, the young guys will be coming in, will be great additions to our program, and we welcome them with open arms. And I think that at the end of the day, the class that we put together is a very good one. It's just like you said, this year it's maybe a little bit more heavy towards international. That also doesn't mean next year we're going to bring in 4 or 5 international players. Maybe one, maybe none. I don't know. But I think being able to pull from different aspects of recruiting takes a lot of pressure off of, especially a program like ours that oftentimes we need to call on 4, 5, 6 new players from one season to the next.
So, Jay, what did you get from that?
Well, first of all, he's been thinking about this track of recruiting international players for a little while now.
Right.
And so that was the first thing. But the thing that fascinated me more than anything was his citing of Gonzaga as a model for Arizona recruiting. That you know, and I get it. You know, Gonzaga's been really good. I mean, I sat there. I worked the Sweet 16 and the Final Four that they went to. They've been to a Final Four more recently than Arizona. But it just strikes me that here's a high, you can say a blue blood or an elite Division I program that's sort of modeling itself and its recruiting after a mid-level program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Gonzaga's the exception. I get they're from a mid-major conference,
But they've arrived.
but they're here.
And
they're here to stay. And Mark Few's done a great job there. And I'll tell you, when I went to that Sweet 16, and that was the one where Arizona lost to Xavier in the Sweet 16, Gonzaga was there. Arizona was going to, even if Arizona had beaten, if that shot by Alonzo Trier had gone in, and Arizona's in the Elite Eight, they weren't going to beat Gonzaga.
Right. And they were higher seed at
No,
the time.
no.
Well,
Gonzaga
1 and 2?
was the one. Arizona
1, 2,
was the two
okay.
in that. They weren't going to beat Gonzaga. And the reason they weren't going to beat Gonzaga is Gonzaga had a team of a bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds, okay? And Arizona's team was a bunch of children. You know, Larry Markkinen was 19 years old.
Right.
So,
Raleigh Alkins.
you know, and all those guys. So that's the first thing. The other thing that struck me is when Gonzaga came down here and played last year.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, my seat at the scores table is closer to the visitor bench, and so I'm there pregame and I'm doing my stuff. And Gonzaga guys walk on the court for their pregame. Those were old men.
Mm-hmm.
They were old men. They were big. They looked physical. And I told my brother Gene, who sits next to me at the table, I said, "We have no shot. Arizona's not going to beat these guys," and they didn't.
Yeah.
Arizona, they stayed in the game through most of the game. Looked like they had a chance to win it, but they weren't going to beat those guys because, you know, again, you know, there were a bunch of on the Arizona side. There were a bunch of kids on the court, and these guys were a bunch of old guys.
Totally agree with you. We'll to get back on the other side, talking more. Sean Miller, thanks.
CBS News at the top and bottom of every hour. 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Wall Street posted a third consecutive gain with continued civil unrest overshadowed by the economic reopening. The Dow jumped 268, the S&P added 25, the Nasdaq rose 56. Zoom Video Communications zooming higher in late trading. Its quarterly results beat estimates, a sign that a pandemic-related surge in demand has translated into more paying customers. Zoom also nearly doubled its annual revenue outlook. Filing for jobless benefits is one thing. Getting those benefits is something else. Bloomberg Analysis finds millions who lost their jobs because of the pandemic are still waiting for their checks. 1/3 of benefits owed have yet to be paid out. As struggling retailers withhold rents, landlords are feeling the pain. Mall owner CBL and Associates says it skipped a debt payment due yesterday and is in talks with its lenders as months of unpaid rents threaten its business. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
CBS News Update. Residents of D.C.'s Mount Pleasant neighborhood are making noise tonight to support the protesters demanding justice in the death of George Floyd. It's much calmer demonstrating outside the White House tonight. CBS's Chris Van Cleve.
What a difference a day makes. Monday, we saw a heavily armed, aggressive police response clear people out of this area using tear gas and pepper spray. Tonight, there are police. They are not in tactical gear, best we can tell, and they're about a block down the road. There's been the cheering and chants we have come to expect. A peaceful protest in the shadow of the White House.
Vice President Mike Pence is repeating the president's threat to call out the military.
We stand ready, as previous administrations have done, to deploy active duty military personnel to quell the violence, to quell the looting.
CBS News Update, I'm Pam Coulter.
Time to update those old kitchen cabinets? Call the Window Depot today. The Window Depot is not only the #1 warehouse for windows and doors, we now have a great selection of kitchen and bath cabinets at Tucson's best prices. The Window Depot is Tucson's top spot for granite and quartz countertops to finish the new kitchen or the replacement of that old worn out Formica. So call us today at 290-8545 or 622-6430. The Window Depot, windows, doors, granite, and new kitchens.
This is Bill Buckmaster coming up Wednesday during the noon hour. A newsmaker interview with Tucson City Councilman Steve Kusacek, then our contributor on agriculture, Dr. Jeff Silvertooth of the University of Arizona, talking about how COVID-19 has really hit the farming community hard. Buckmaster during the noon hour on 1030, Tucson's voice for trusted news talk. Anywhere in the world live listening, yes, we're always on buckmastershow.com.
This is The Voice, 1030, Tucson's trusted news and talk.
Hey, welcome back to Wine the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzalez. So Jay, I got your observation. One of the things is, and maybe I didn't ask the question correctly, but I wanted to see how this all materialized. Was it because the United States kids didn't want to come here, or did he kind of use them as the result of no one wanting to come here?
No, it sounded to me like it was a
work in progress.
Yeah, sort of. I need to get guys that fit my system, and these guys fit my. I just feel like he was trying to do something a little different recruiting wise, because, again, I'm not a coach, but my limited knowledge of basketball, it's my opinion that bringing guys in for 1 year to run his system is not working.
Yeah, and that's obvious.
So he's trying to get guys who have, he spent some time in the press conference talking about the experience that these guys get playing the international game. They travel, they go to different countries, and it's a different environment that they're learning basketball than the AAU environment that these guys play in here, where they're just running up and down the court and dunking.
Right.
So it seems to me like he's just trying to get guys that are a better fit for him, combined with, the one and dones that he can get.
Isn't it kind of going back to his days at Xavier?
It might be. It may be.
Getting players who are good.
You got to do something different, because he's just
he's stuck.
He's just not getting to where he needs to get to.
Right. Okay, that said, there's 13 scholarships on a roster.
There's 13 scholarships, and they got 14 players right now. One of the big question marks is Brandon Williams.
Right.
He's had the knee injury. He has said some stuff that led people to believe that he's looking for a way out. But Sean Miller today said that, as far as he's concerned, Brandon's on the roster. They're working with him. The COVID thing has created some issues because his rehab has not been as normal as it would need to be. And there's a lot of feeling that if they've got one extra guy right now, Brandon Williams is a guy that's not going to be here in the fall. But Sean clearly said that don't necessarily assume that. So he had some stuff to say about what's going to happen by the fall, that they've got to be down to 13 players.
Yeah, not necessarily true. The only thing I would tell you, Bruce, is it's late May. I thought about it, many, many times this spring. If you go back a year ago, we had, I think, 3, maybe 4 things that happened in terms of our roster changing from the Memorial weekend until we began the fall semester. There's different guys that have some academic work to do. In our case, clearly we're working hard from the international perspective to make sure that we have any problems solved and working there. We have a lot of guys that are home and, working academically and, to establish themselves coming back. But I think when we get through the summer and we show up in the fall, we'll be at 13 scholarship players, and I think that it will all work out. And I say that with great confidence. Work out not
it's just basically something's going to happen. I don't know what.
It's like the COVID thing. It's too early to tell.
It is, and again, college basketball is one of the sports where that's, the fluidity of a roster is very high. And he mentioned that last year that they hit Memorial Day and still there were 4 roster moves after that. So he seems confident that something's going to happen. I think he's just trying to make sure that. Let's not make assumptions about who's going to be here and who's not.
But let's also say, let me put you in Brandon Williams' shoes. Wouldn't you kind of be ready to say goodbye?
Look,
in case?
Yeah, if I'm Brandon Williams and I've got this problem with
roster spots,
and again, remember, as Sean pointed out in the news conference, With Brandon Williams, it's not a knee injury. It's a chronic problem with his knee. And when you hear people talk about what that might be, it's not, he didn't tear an ACL or something like that. He's got a problem with his knee just physically. He's got a limited amount of time that he's going to be able to play basketball.
All right.
And so if I'm Brandon Williams, I'm thinking hard about whether or not I'm going to stick around and play for another. But then again, if he doesn't play college basketball, who's going to take him?
Right. And that's kind of what came out a month ago or so with Brandon Williams and his discussion on the internet.
Right.
He's looking at options that best suits Brandon
Right.
Williams.
And that's the best thing to do.
And that's the best thing you do.
That's the absolute best thing to do, is to think, what's the right thing for Brandon Williams? And if he says, I got to go because I've got maybe 3 or 4 years to play basketball and I'm going to go get, earn some money, how can you say don't do it?
Exactly. And any fan who says this or that, I wouldn't blame him for a second. You can't.
Exactly. You can't. Again, since he was a little kid, he's been thinking about being a professional basketball player. And if playing another year at Arizona really puts at risk his ability to
play at least 1 or 2 years
to play as a pro, then you know what? Then don't do it.
Right.
I've never criticized a guy. Well, I shouldn't say never. There are some guys that have left that you thought, dude, that's not really smart. But we don't know what their situation is.
Right.
So
and maybe they just weren't good enough.
Right. And you just hope guys make the decision, the best decision for them.
Well, I'll give you one example right away. Michael Wright. Wright. But he was not gonna. He was one of those major betweener guys.
Yeah.
Not big enough for the pros. Very good for the college game.
Right. But if he stayed another year, his situation wasn't going to change.
Exactly.
So go make the money.
People don't understand that.
But then I think his name Marcus Williams. Is that
yes. Oh yes. Oh God.
What was that guy thinking?
We could spend an hour.
I'm like, that guy shouldn't even been starting at Arizona. He goes to the NBA, and I'm like, dude, okay,
Perfect example.
Right. So. Again, you don't know what's best. I mean, you see a guy play and you say, okay, that's an NBA guy. That guy's not.
Right.
In our limited,
we've seen enough of that. Our litmus test of watching people, we know.
I think we have a good idea.
Yeah.
But again, you don't know other things like their family situation, or maybe they hate school, or they're not doing well enough in school to stay out. A lot of things go into it that we don't know about.
Sure. That doesn't make him NBA eligible, though, right away. Okay, next clip.
The second clip is Sean Miller talking about getting past the comments that Jason Terry made when the FBI investigation came around.
And I thought it was a great question.
It was.
Well, there's a lot of people who reacted to that day. There's a long line. And you know what? Based on the information that they had, if you had a passion towards the program that we're all a part of now, Arizona basketball, that was a moment you remembered and you were trying to figure it out. To Jason's credit and I guess mine as well, having nothing to do with him eventually becoming an assistant coach here, we repaired that, talked about it, and had a good conversation about it some time ago. And I appreciated at that moment just the thought that he had of reaching out and getting back on the same page. And he didn't need to explain the emotion behind what he said. I think I understood it. And it's one of the things that you appreciate about our program, David, is that there's people that our program matters to them. They want us to do well. They care a great deal about it. And when you care about something, sometimes you can become emotional. But we crossed that bridge a long, long time ago. That had obviously nothing to do with me coming his direction and eventually making him a part of our staff. So I've gotten to know him a lot better. Like you do with all these guys, they're busy. They're NBA players. They have their own careers. You watch them from afar and respect them a great deal, but you don't have a whole lot of interaction. But as Jason's career is winding down, I've gotten a chance to really know him, and I'm thrilled to add him as an assistant coach and really a big, big part of our future.
Let me say this. David Kelly asked a question I thought was a great question. Came, I think, right after mine. And I said to myself, that's a great question. I thought it was an even better answer.
It was a great answer. And you got to give Sean Miller a lot of credit. Look, we criticize Sean for a lot of things. but really to put his ego aside, you know, for the good of the program. And I mean, I hold grudges. All right. My friends laugh at me because I tell them that there's a girl that broke up with me in high school. I still have a big problem with.
If you're talking about it, yeah.
You know, I was 17 years old.
I'll take what's your insurance? I'll take it.
I hold grudges, and my family knows that. But you know, to see what Jason Terry basically said, which he basically said in not so many words, that we need to fire Sean Miller. Yeah. And for the two of those guys to work through that to the point that they're going to work together, I think you really gotta you know, give both guys a hand for that, because you know, that boy, you know, when somebody tells me I think you should be fired, I'm going to have a hard time even being a friend of that person down the road.
When he talked about the emotion and he understood it, yada yada, and it could be coach speak, but I don't believe this is, because you could tell, and you know, Sean, you've heard him talk.
Right.
Heard him talk. I really believe that was to me it was a great answer from Sean.
Yeah. Well, again, I think we've come to know that Sean Miller is, you know, he's very confident in his position and who he is. He didn't have to go get Jason Terry. There are a lot of other guys he could have gone out and gotten, but he felt Jason Terry was a good fit, and he was willing to get past what he said.
I've talked about this a number of times. I think it was a great PR move, great PR for the school, great for the program. They got a guy who knows the culture of Arizona basketball. These kids are dying to be Jason Terry because they want to go to the pros and last some time, so they have some knowledge of who he is and what he can do. And I think the alums are grateful for him.
Well, sure. Well, later on in the press conference, Sean was asked exactly that. You know, what are the things that Jason Terry brings to the program that got you to hire him? And he listed all those things. The players will listen to him because of his career, both as in college and the NBA. You know, it's a boost for the fans who remember Jason Terry, love Jason Terry, and so it's great for the coaching staff. It's great for recruiting, and then on top of everything else, he's got basketball knowledge. And he'll be able to coach. He can coach. He's going to help coach the guards. People forget that as great a scorer as Jason Terry was, you know, he was a national player. He was a Sports Illustrated National Player of the Year his senior year. He was a great defensive player. His defense during the 97 championship year and then 98 when they got to the Elite Eight was a key to what they did. So on top of all those things that are on the table with him, he may be a great coach too.
Right. No, I think he's the school leader in steals. I remember writing that story thousands of years ago. But and he's a community guy.
And he's a community, and you know what? And he's just a fun, happy, smiley kind of guy. And so I think we're gonna like having him around.
I'm a little upset at him because I had him on the show. I think I told you this right during the NCAA championship game when him and AJ are on the show a day later after they showed it in April, and 3 or 4 days later, I started hearing words that it was going to be him, and he didn't tell me.
Well, again, that's like Greg Byrne didn't tell us about the Alabama game, right? So, you know, these guys, we got to draw them out a little more.
Adia Barnes has been our biggest story.
Adia Barnes, you know, told us and then Tony Amato, you know, told us, hey, I have a kid. Hey, great, you know. So we got to draw these guys out. We got to figure those things out.
Break news here. I'm not pregnant.
Glad to hear that.
FYI. Hey, let's take a quick break for our last break here on 1030 The Voice.
We have lots of ideas and even some solutions. 1030, The Voice.
These days, most families are concerned with having the right insurance coverage. Protecting your family, home, auto, and other valuable possessions can be challenging and sometimes expensive. Crest Insurance gives you flexible options and solutions while saving you money. Insurance is not one size fits all, and at Crest, we find the coverage that's best for you and your family. Visit us online at www.crestins.com or call us toll free at 888-881-5765.
If you like sitting around the porch or dinner table sharing stories with friends, that's what we like to do here at Our American Stories. I'm Lee Habib, and each weeknight we bring to you stories about American love, funny stories about first jobs, this day in history, American dreamers and marriages, and even the stories of music and acting legends. I invite you to sit around the porch with us as we share Our American Stories.
Evenings from 7 to 9 on 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
Tucson's source for trusted news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzalez. Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. It does. And, it's been nice to talk about some basketball. I mean, like things that are maybe happening on the court. I feel like, again, we keep, having momentum towards the fact that we're actually going to be talking about games sometime in the next few months. So it was nice to be able to
did you hear the
Sean
portion when Sean talked about that, when they asked him about, do you think that they're going to have basketball when basketball comes? And it's 5 months away. It's about 5 months, a little over 5 months away. It's way too early to tell.
It's way too early to tell. I think both Sean and Adia Barnes have expressed a lot of confidence that their seasons are going to, have a sense of normalcy from the standpoint that, they're going to start when they're supposed to start, and those kinds of things. We don't know what it's going to be like in the arena in terms of fans, but, they have a strong belief right now because nobody's told them otherwise that they're not going to be playing on time.
Right. The one we need to get Dave Hickey on. I know he had said to me that he wants to be on the show, so we'll get him on time soon.
Sure, sure.
One of the questions I'm curious, if something it applies to you too. If you're a season football ticket holder, are you going to be allowed to get your season ticket, and are you going to get the same ticket, or are you going to have to be spread out? What have you been told?
What we've been told only is that if you've paid for a ticket and you don't get to go to that game, you get your money back. That's fine with me. I put in my money for my season tickets
for the whole season
by June 1st. But I took advantage of the 25% payment plan because what you had to do is pay 25% of your account to hold your tickets for this year, and I did that. And then you paid the rest of it, as you go along. My 25% included 25% of my tailgate pass, but so I paid for my. I've started the process of paying for my tickets, and again, all they've said is that if you don't get to go to a game, you get your money back. So I don't expect to have a ticket to every game because they haven't even decided how many people they're going to let into the stadium and who's going to and then I'm just going to let it unfold. If they say, okay, you can come to the game, but you've got to go sit over there instead of where you normally sit, then I'm going to go sit over there. So, I'm just going to let it happen. I know there's people who want to be assured of, well, if I'm buying a ticket, I want my seat. If I'm buying my ticket, I want to be able to go to every game. You know what, folks? Give it up. It's going to be different. We're not going to be able to do it the way we want to do it. You may have a 50-yard line seat this game, and you may be sitting in the end zone the next game. And if that's not good enough for you, then you know what? You're not the fan that we all thought you were. Your 50-yard line seats were just a complete mockery. So get out of here.
This is not Burger King. You cannot have it your way.
Exactly. Everybody's going to have to understand that this season for football and basketball, and you know what? Maybe even baseball.
An aberration.
And softball. I mean, think of Hillenbrand Stadium on a game day. That place is jammed
with guess what? The age group.
Right.
That's
the at-risk age group.
At-risk age group.
And so, guys, it's going to be different. Just deal with it. Make the best of it. Go to the games that you get to go to, and then you know what? Watch the other ones on TV.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to be wholly disappointed if they say, you know what? You're not going to the Portland State game. All right, I'm staying home.
I'm at the tailgate. What are you talking about?
I'm staying home. When we tailgate, we bring a TV in the whole bit. Maybe they'll let us come and tailgate and watch it there.
Right. So we'll see.
Look, everybody's just going to have to understand that it's going to be different, and not everybody's going to get everything that they want.
Yeah, right. Thomas?
It is potentially reassuring news at least for the spring, is that today Dr. Fauci said that they anticipate having 100 million vaccines ready by early 2021, maybe January of 2021.
Really?
Yes. So what's happening is the trials right now, they're in what's called phase 2, which is a smaller control group. Then it enters phase 3 this summer, which is thousands of people in all age groups. What they're doing is manufacturing this already with the hopes of that it does go through all the testing with a green light, and then as soon as it's approved, they can send out the vaccines that they've already made. And by the end of the year his estimate was 100 million vaccines available.
Look at Tom, man, reading the news, not just the sports stuff.
Dr. Tom, thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, I just play one on the radio.
Thank you, Tom. You've given me hope. But again, even if there is a vaccine, I mean, I still can't imagine that they're going to let 100,000 people into Ohio State Stadium. I just don't.
Right.
I mean, we're not going to be there this season. I think this whole school year, or this whole season through next June,
really,
it's going to be really limited.
Dr. Doom.
No, I'm not saying they're not going to be games. I'm just saying that
it's going to be
they're
altered.
not going to let 14,000 people into McHale Center.
I get that. Even when the calendar changes, nothing's going to change.
Right.
Because 221, okay, like you're talking about 100 million 2021, it still doesn't kind of change things.
And it's going to be a lot of trial and error. They're going to have to figure out, okay, what works and what doesn't again, and when is it going to happen? But to me, as long as there's games, I'll be good.
Yeah. Is it too late for my snide remark that they weren't letting 14,000 in that arena last year either?
No, but you're right, because it was about 12 and a half or 11. Because you were saying that U of A basketball was not sold out. It wasn't sold out.
They were advertising tickets.
Yeah. Well, they
on
sold
this
out,
radio
but
station.
they sold a few games. 14-6-4-4, I know, or 5-4-4, something like that. That's the number. I don't know why I remember that.
The old gray mare ain't like she used to be.
It's not, and and that is true. That it's not a sellout every game like it used to be. But that's kind of where sports generally are. There's a lot of people that just stay home for and watch the games at home.
And Tucson, you know this better than me, having grown up here. Tucson loves a winner.
They do, and you know what, Sean? He used the phrase "return to a high level." He understands, and he acknowledges that the last couple of years haven't been vintage Arizona basketball.
Did you see his Zoom with Steve and Matt?
I did.
Both of them?
Yeah.
So he was very self-effacing.
Right.
He even admitted to them it's been not the greatest.
It's been tough.
2 years.
They've had a tough couple of years. He said, and he keeps talking about making it back and returning to where we were.
Right.
So he's acknowledging that, his teams haven't met the quote unquote Arizona standard. They haven't been Arizona good the last couple of years. But he's also trying to rebuild that, and he's taken a different strategy recruiting wise and all that kind of stuff.
So I had a Zoom meeting with Anthony and my guy Moreno, and I said maybe we talked about this too. So they have all these kids, 6 foreigners and a transfer coming in. Last year it was mostly the 3 good players, and then they had to mesh with the other guys, and it just didn't kind of work. And people are saying, well, they need more time. What makes this year any different that they need more time?
Well, they are going to need more time, especially. But I think there's some things in play that, there aren't going to be some guys there that you're thinking
one and done.
I'm just here for for the year and I'm getting out.
I get that.
And I feel like. I feel like I would expect there to be, I don't know if I feel like it's going to happen. I would expect there to be more of a long-term commitment to what they're doing, and maybe some more patience and working with guys and running a system that can work. And yes, you're going to take your lumps, and you're going to play some games and you're going to get beat up, but the lessons you learn from that will help you down the road, whether it's this year or next year.
And that's where I wanted to go with it. So you're a fan. I know your family's a fan, and you know a lot of fans. So are you going to sacrifice next year? And not sacrifice is too big of a word, but to wait for the next year?
Well, I'm going to expect them to win this year. Do I expect them to compete for a national championship? No. Do I expect them to compete for a Pac-12 championship? Absolutely. I expect that Arizona should compete for that every single year. So I do expect that. But on the other hand, I think that if you see that there's something happening that leads you to believe that there's a future here. Because with when you've got the one and done guys, there is no future.
Right.
It's right
It's
now.
now. It's now.
right now. This has got to happen right now. If it doesn't happen, we're starting over again next year.
Mhm.
I'm going in with the attitude of these guys are here. They're going to start to hopefully build something. They're going to hang around, maybe be here another 1 or 2 years after that.
If not more, yeah.
Again, because when I think of that Gonzaga team that went to the Final Four, you think of the Virginia team that's the defending champion, Villanova, those couple of years that they won it. They won those games. They won those
Older
championships
guys.
with old guys.
Yeah.
Old guys, right? 23-year-old guys. But, to me, there's something to that. And I get it. Kentucky and even Duke to a degree, and some of these teams, they get the one and dones and they do well. But I just believe that with what Sean Miller does and the things he does in his program, he needs older guys.
I don't disagree with you there at all. And to argue a little with you, Calipari to me is the most overrated college coach because he gets those guys. He's won once. He's won once.
That's my point.
And Coach K, okay, he gets what he gets. He didn't win with the best team 2-3 years ago.
Right.
With the best team.
With the best team.
So
Right.
that doesn't work for them either.
So exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's harder to win it all with that team.
I don't disagree.
Than building towards something that
Yeah.
you get there little by little and get there.
I totally agree. We'll end it there. Kumbaya, Jay.
Yeah, there you go, man. Fun
Kumbaya.
conversation.
Good show today.
I thought it was good. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Good.
Hopefully we can keep some of these conversations going.
We got how much time? We got about 20 seconds. So we have a good show tomorrow. AIA high school stuff
Right.
with the administration. See what's going on
We're
there.
going to talk high schools tomorrow, so we hope people will be listening and calling and ask some questions.
Do you want to tease Thursday?
Not yet.
Okay, we won't.
Not yet.
Okay, tomorrow.
All
we'll
right.
tease.
Big day Thursday,
Big
though.
day Thursday. Yes. Hey, thanks everybody for listening here on 1030 The Voice.
When driving in Arizona, move over or slow down for any flashing lights. Move over for tow truck drivers, highway crews, and